to all of you around the world. Today is 2nd of July. Today is World Sports Journalist Day. Today is our day. So AIPS has prepared this e-conference for you with some great panelists from all of the continents. Stay with us because the topic is very interesting. It is about sport and mental health, about our access to the sources, about our future. Sport journalists from more than 120 countries registered to be with us today from all over the world. So I would like to ask AIPS President, Mr. Gianni Merlo, to address you. Gianni.
Dear colleague, I think that is a very important day, and I hope that we can speak about all the topics that are very, very vital for our profession now. And I think that it's very important that we begin to speak about Tokyo, because the most important thing is Tokyo 2020 that is going to begin very soon. And for this reason, I will begin from there because, the first time I went in Tokyo, it was in 1978. Sorry, we have only a small technical problem.
Yes, just a second, please.
Is here. Yes, sorry, I've had a technical problem. And now I think that is much better because I was looking in the other camera. So, as I was telling to you, my first time in Japan was 1978, so age ago, during the Jurassic Park. And I have begun to love Japan thanks to Oshino-san, that was a great journalist of the Yomiuri Shimbun, a journalist that has showed to me how the hospitality, the Japanese hospitality is great, how they are kind. But unfortunately, it looks that now, with the pandemic, something is changing completely. I think that the tension of this coronavirus has created a kind of confusion and sometimes a human doubt that is in the head of our colleague in Japan, because we have received yesterday the accommodation working during soft quarantine scheme. And there is written something that is completely unacceptable for us, because if you see there is, first of all, we have to make our GPS always in function, and we cannot, really, we cannot close the phone in any time, because they want to know exactly where we are. And if, for instance, it can happen that your battery will fail, after you have to explain to the people what happened. They will investigate about this infringement of the code. And this is something already a little bit strange, but okay. At the end, we can accept even if our privacy is completely gone, because they want to know with this also who we will meet. And this is not correct from this kind of thing. After, we go to the third point, what we can do for the catering to eat something. They tell us that it's better that we do everything at the press center or in the venue where we are going. If not, we can have the possibility to speak to eat in the hotel or in the other facility, but that must be recognized, or you can buy some food in special place, the so-called convenience store. But before, you have to ask to the security people of the hotel where you stay that you are going there, and after you must be back in 15 minutes. If not, I don't know what will happen. If, for example, you find the queue and you have to stay 2 meters from each other, maybe that in the convenience store more people are there, And you cannot do everything in 15 minutes, walking there, coming back, and after to show to your security guard that you are okay. So even this, they can say also that the failure to comply with these rules for using convenience store may result the withdrawal of your accreditation. Can you imagine that you can lose your accreditation and so you are there for nothing? You have spent thousands of dollars, and because you were perhaps 20 minutes in the convenience store, you can lose your credential. I think that this is something that is completely unacceptable. And after there is another rule to remember when we are going out. We have always to use the vehicles that are accepted by or prepared by the organizing committee. I am speaking about the first 14 days of the soft quarantine, no? And you have to be always careful. You have to choose the place that is very close to your hotel to pick the bus and so on. And you have always asked to the security guards that are stationed at your hotel entrance. When you go out, after you have to tell where you are going, at what time, and after when you come back, you have also to fulfill all the record when you're back. So in some way, we are exactly as, when you are a kind of prisoner at home. You must tell them when you go out and when you come back. They have also the GPS. And so I think that really the freedom of the people is really in danger. After the last part, that is the most incredible. Sorry, come down, yes. If you are identified walking outside, the security guards will ask you to stay in your room and you must follow their instruction. If you do not follow the instruction, the security guard will report it to Tokyo 2020, the organization responsible for your entry and stay. So they treat you that they can kick you out from Japan. The people of Japan will be paying close attention to your every move as you participate in the games. In the unlikely event that you are suspected or found to be in infringement of the playbook, such activity may be photographed and shared on the social media by bystanders. Can you imagine? Now, in some way, they're asking to the population of Japan to spy every move of our move and after also to put on the social. I think this is the most crazy instruction that we have received in our life. I think this go back to the dark time here in Europe in the last century and even before. For this reason, I think that it's important that we begin to discuss in a kind way with the organizer because we understand their mind. We understand how difficult it is for them to stay in this way. But we have to find out together a solution, a human solution, because I cannot believe that the hospitality of Japan is this one. I cannot believe, yes, it's a special occasion, but we are not in war. Can you imagine that the people now in Japan are looking to all the European or other country coming there because they can recognize very easily in the street, and after they begin to photograph, to film us, and to put on the social? So we'll be a kind of monkeys in the zoo. This is not acceptable, sorry. And for this reason, I think that I can understand that they reach this point under pressure. And I can tell you that even I found many reasonable people in Japan, and personally I've had a very good relation and possibility to talk with the people in the hotel in which I am staying, and I found very reasonable people that they understand and they found out the best solution. So I think that we cannot judge Japan from this paper because this paper are nothing. we prefer to judge Japan because it's very good in the organizing every event, but it's necessary now that we have still 2 weeks to go to find solution. But there is another matter that is very important. This is regarding our private life, our freedom. But there is something else that is a little bit more difficult, more dangerous. Many of our colleagues, most of them freelancer or coming from country in which the financial situation is not so good, and some journalists that are also paying all their expenses because they newspaper or site or television or sometimes radio, they don't pay any of their expenses. But they are going there because they believe in sport, because they think that sport is still an important tool for peace and so on. And these people that has not enough money was told by the organizer to move from the hotel in which they were, in the budget hotel for $50 a night, to the hotel recognized by their organization. But what was the surprise? For all these people, they found that the cost of the hotel was 3-4 times more. Can you imagine? They have a budget already very poor, and after they can go to a kind of bankruptcy. How we can accept this? Is this the Olympic spirit? I doubt. I think that these people that believe so much in sport, because sport, it means culture, it means also a peaceful message, must be helped. And I think that all the Japanese agree with this idea. I know, as I told you, that under the pressure sometimes it's possible to take crazy decision. But after a while, discussing very calmly, I think that we can find a solution to help everybody and to help also the Japanese to accept us, because the most of us, I think 95% of us has already the 2 shots of vaccine. We are taking care about the problem in every country. We are not going there as infectors. We are not the infectors. We are people that wants to come to Japan because we know that Japan is a great nation. And I love their hospitality, their mind. So please, let's begin again to touch some points, to correct what is wrong, and to begin to work together. Because the Olympic competition are important not only for the result, but for the meaning that the Olympic is. The Olympic is respecting a truce for the world. But now we have to respect also the right of the journalists, of the media, that are not financially so strong, but they want to survive, to give the possibility to sport, to be free, to be clean, and to be culture, as I told you. Thank you very much. The word is to you.
Thank you, Gianni. And now we can start with our conference, with our panelists. There are several of them who you know already from our schools or from our other conferences, but the theme is very, very interesting. So we will start with Europe, we will start with Spain, we will start with editor-in-chief of Marca, with Juan Ignacio Gallardo. Mr. Gallardo.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon, queridos colegas de la Asociación Internacional de Prensa Deportiva. Como siempre, es un placer participar en esta conferencia internacional para compartir y conocer las inquietudes del resto de compañeros de todo el mundo. Agradezco al presidente Gianni Merlo su invitación para formar parte de este foro. Pienso que todos coincidimos en algo. Estamos en un escenario donde cada vez es más complicado, donde cada vez se ponen más trabas, más dificultades, más barreras para acceder a los deportistas. Y cortar a los periodistas el acceso a las fuentes es romper el necesario vínculo entre el deportista y el aficionado. Es importante incidir en el grave hecho de que impedir este acceso directo al atleta atenta directamente contra el fan, puesto que nosotros somos el eslabón de la cadena que une ambas partes. Es una práctica peligrosa, ya que debilita los cimientos que sostienen la poderosa industria del entretenimiento. En mi opinión, hay 2 motivos principales que nos están llevando a esta situación. El primero, ridículo e infantil, es la propia comodidad de los deportistas y de los clubes. sobre todo de la élite, porque los menos mediáticos sí que reclaman constantemente su cuota de visibilidad. El deportista debe entender que la prensa es una herramienta fundamental para generar grandeza, tanto al deporte como a la estrella, que buena parte de sus millonarios ingresos provienen de la capacidad que tiene la prensa para transmitir sus éxitos, sus logros, sus victorias, sus medallas, a una audiencia gigantesca. No entender eso y establecer una distancia cada vez más amplia con los periodistas es una visión muy poco profesional. El otro motivo es que con la aparición de las redes sociales, el deportista considera que ya no necesita a la prensa para trasladar sus mensajes, que lo puede hacer directamente, sin intermediarios. Evidentemente eso es así, pero el aficionado sabe distinguir perfectamente entre propaganda e información. A través de las redes sociales solo se transmite propaganda y eso no llena toda la necesidad del fan. El aficionado quiere que le cuenten lo bueno, pero también lo malo. Eso solo lo hace la prensa. Que los deportistas no entiendan esto vuelve a demostrar una visión muy poco profesional. Hay un último motivo que puede acentuar este distanciamiento: la ansiedad mental que a algunos deportistas le puede generar sentarse ante la prensa, como el reciente caso de Naomi Osaka. Entiendo que es una situación puntual, un caso individual, en el que lo más correcto es respetar la decisión de la deportista. Pero si esta cuestión se repitiese con otros o fuese un argumento recurrente para evitar las comparecencias de prensa, habría que buscar inmediatamente fórmulas para solucionar la situación, partiendo de la base de que casos como este son muy negativos para el deportista, la prensa, el propio torneo y para los aficionados. Amigos traductores, esto siguiente no está en mi texto original, pero escuchando al principio al presidente Merlo, creo que los Juegos Olímpicos son ya un escenario peligroso para el ejercicio de nuestra profesión, repleto de serias dificultades e inconvenientes, y que perjudicará sin duda a la audiencia y aficionados de todo el planeta. Podemos asumir que sea una cuestión puntual por la pandemia del coronavirus, pero solo y únicamente por eso. Continúo y termino con mi texto original. Cuando algo afecta tan directamente a todas las partes implicadas, sería de malos profesionales no tratar de arreglarlo. Hay que encontrar soluciones. Creo que los periodistas somos los únicos que estamos viendo estos riesgos. Espero que el resto de los actores de esta industria lo vean pronto, antes de que sea tarde. Mientras tanto, a los periodistas nos tocará luchar porque el distanciamiento con las fuentes no crezca y que incluso se reduzca. Y que todo el mundo entienda que esta lucha no es solo por nosotros, es por el bien del aficionado, del deportista y del propio deporte. Muchas gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias to Mr. Gallardo. And now the lady from America with Christine Brennan. Christine, is everything okay with our connection?
I think so. Can you hear me? All right, good. Well, hi, everybody. So I have a question for you or for Johnny. What do you want me to talk about? Are we talking about Naomi Osaka? Or are we talking about the Japan rules? Or what would you like?
You can talk about
Johnny.
anything you want.
Johnny, you're in charge. You tell me, and I will follow your rules.
You are free to choose. You are free to choose.
I'm free to choose. Well, I'll talk a little bit about both, and thank you. But Johnny, whatever rules you say, I will always go by. Of course, you know that. What a dear friend, and it's amazing how you organize the world like this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are terrific, and I can't wait to see you. Although maybe we can't even see or talk to each other, because if we do, we might both get our credentials yanked. Although it would be kind of a fun way to go. Well, on the issue of Japan, I am very, very excited, as I know you are, Johnny, and as others who are on the call, very excited to go to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics in 2021. And I think we all understand, Johnny, you made it crystal clear. We understand these are the most extraordinary games and the most extraordinary circumstances. We understand that. But as you said, Johnny, it's not a war. But it is a war. It's a war against the pandemic. I completely understand the organizers' difficulties and concerns and respect all of those. I know we all do. This is an undertaking unlike anything that we've seen, and certainly something that they never thought they would have to deal with. And so we get that. We get it, and we're sympathetic, and we understand. And everyone I've talked to, all of my colleagues, people I talked to at our U.S. Olympic swimming trials, which didn't appear to be as fast as the Australian swimming trials, Tracy. We'll see about that in Tokyo, but lots of talk back and forth across the ocean from the Aussies to the Americans back and forth. Very, very fun, making this a really fun story. But we all understand. We are following the rules. We are going to get our 2 COVID tests. I guess the thing that comes to mind on this topic, which we could spend all day on, is that for those who are fully vaccinated, as I am, and luckily in the United States, so many of us are, and I'm sure many, if not most of you are as well, is that there's doesn't seem to be much consideration for that. And I think once you're fully vaccinated and coming into the country, still wearing masks, which we're doing in the United States. I'm talking to you right now from Washington, D.C. in the morning here on Friday. And if I go into a grocery store for food, I'm wearing a mask. If I walk into a restaurant, I'm wearing a mask. Even now, the respect for one another and the concern for one another. Outdoors, no, but indoors, yes, at least, walking into a store or restaurant and the whole time in a store. And then coming out, you take it off again. And I'm sure that's the case with many of you. So I know the Japanese organizers must know this about us, must know how serious we are. And I hope that there are accommodations for some of these and changes for some of these rules. And I'm not sure if we have any of the wonderful organizers of the Japan 2020 Olympics on the call, but if we do, we implore them to make sure to look at these rules and regulations and to make some changes. Because we are not the enemy. We're the friends of the Olympics, even though we may have to write some difficult stories at times and do some investigative journalism, of course. But we're all in this together, and we get it, and we understand, and the respect that we all have for the Japanese people and for not bringing the virus into Japan is boundless. We understand that. So, and then real quick on Naomi Osaka, I think all of us. Our heart goes out to her. Mental health is a huge issue in sports. My only wish for Naomi Osaka, which I've written and said on various shows and written in my USA Today column, my own thought would have been if she and her agent, if they had the ability to go to the organizers of the French Open few weeks before it started and talk this through, as opposed to just blaming the media. I think it would have been a different story and a different outcome. It's very fashionable to blame the media for everything these days. Unfortunately, our former president, Donald Trump, led the way on that in an appalling manner that we will be digging out from for years to come here in the United States and around the world. But the fact is, the media is not the problem. And this became, as all of us know, an issue of people saying, well, it's the media's fault. And the media is too tough. And why do they have to do press conferences? And thankfully, voices like James Blake and others spoke out eloquently about why the athletes do press conferences, why they want to talk to the media. They need to sell their sport. They need to promote their sport. Every sport is going through change. Television ratings are dropping. All of them are losing viewers and fans, and who knows what the situation will be in the future for any of these sports, especially a sport like tennis that has to keep that foothold in the marketplace against so many other sports. And so the tennis players want to talk to us. Of course they do. They may not love every minute of it. We have to sometimes ask very tough questions, but often the questions are fine and easy, and they can just knock them out of the park. And it's just teeing up a golf ball and driving it down the middle of the fairway. That's what they get to do. They get to make that choice of what their answer is going to be. But we're there as journalists to ask the questions for the fans, for the viewers that they cannot ask. And last point on this, so I wish Naomi Osaka and her people had thought of this. Naomi Osaka's second response, where she apologized to the cool journalist that she knows, I think showed that she understood that bashing the media and going after the media was probably not the best idea. And it certainly changed the conversation from where I believe she wanted it to be, and we all want it to be, which is about mental health for these young athletes. Too much, too soon, how difficult it is to navigate this very unusual world they're in. We understand that, and our heart goes out to Naomi Osaka. Last point, I was covering the Olympic swimming trials in the United States in Omaha, Nebraska, as I mentioned, and the opposite occurred. with the American star Simone Manuel. So Simone Manuel did not make it the Olympics in the 100 freestyle, one of her main events. And afterwards, she came into the press conference and talked to us, told the story of she has something called overtraining syndrome. She's been undergoing depression. She has not been able to eat right. She has anxiety. And where did she choose to tell that story? She chose a press conference. She came to us. And I was in that press conference. I asked 2 of the maybe 15 questions. And in all cases, as we asked our questions, raised our hands with our masks on, we told her, we thanked her for coming. We said we understand how hard this is as we then asked our question. We're human beings too. And Simone Manuel did make the Olympic team in the 50 freestyle, so she will be in Tokyo. And as we know, she's one of the very few Black American swimmers. And so she plays a very important role as a role model for so many, and to try to give her sport more diversity and inclusion. And Simone Manuel decided to come to us and talk about her mental health issues and her physical health issues. She didn't run away from it. She came to us. 2 entirely different stories, Naomi Osaka, Simone Manuel, 2 entirely different approaches. But one of them came to the media and used that forum to tell her story to millions. I understand Naomi Osaka and her whatever she was doing. I respect it 100%. It's such a different way to do it by Simone Manuel. And Simone Manuel got that story out and probably helped some young people who read it and heard it and understood that they're not alone, because they could look up to someone like Simone Manuel, who's also dealing with those issues. And the only reason they could know that is because Simone Manuel talked to the press, spent about 20 to 30 minutes with us in a press conference. And I thought that was class, and it was dignity, and it was guts, and it was courage. And I hope for Simone Manuel, it was a wonderful result. And then she made the Olympic team a couple of days later. So anyway, thanks to all, and hope to see many of you in Tokyo. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for this nice story about press relations with the sport, with the athletes, which is very, very important. I would just try to ask Vincent, is everything okay now with his computer? Vincent, can you hear us? Can we hear you? Is it possible? No, we can't hear you. Vincent, please stay with us.
Maybe restarting the Zoom, Amalvi. It can work.
Yes.
So you can go out and come back, restarting your Zoom audio, please.
Yes, just do again your Zoom process, and we will wait for you. Until we are waiting, we are going to Mexico. Editor-in-Chief of Record, Mr. Carlos Pons. Carlos, welcome.
Muchas gracias por la invitación, Gianni, a la asociación. Me uno a la felicitación y a incentivar este tipo de reuniones más seguidos, justamente para alumbrar temas que atañen a nuestra profesión, como el gran problema del acceso a la información en estos días. Hace algunos años, en Record, el diario deportivo más relevante de nuestro país, sufrimos un veto masivo por parte de nuestro fútbol, desde la Federación Mexicana hasta los clubes de la liga. Nos impidieron el acceso a la fuente directa, la fuente oficial, por ser incómodos justamente para la fuente. Fue un veto total. Nosotros nos tuvimos que replantear nuestras estrategias periodísticas para seguir generando contenido. Decidimos seguir mandando a fotógrafos y a reporteros a las conferencias de prensa, a los entrenamientos, a los partidos, a los eventos. Aunque sabíamos que no nos iban a dejar entrar, decidimos seguir buscando a través de visitar estos eventos con nuestros periodistas, la terquedad propia del buen periodista. Y nos encontramos muy pronto con un caso que sirve para la charla que tenemos hoy, este problema del acceso a la información. Resulta que en Monterrey, una ciudad que está al norte de nuestro país, con un equipo que se llama Tigres, quizás algunos lo han escuchado, ahí juega André-Pierre Gignac, el francés, o fue el equipo que llegó a la final en el pasado Mundial de Clubes que perdió contra el Bayern Múnich. La reportera y el fotógrafo que cubren Tigres acudieron al entrenamiento a pesar de que ya sabían que no íbamos a poder entrar, que la puerta estaba cerrada. El resto de la prensa entró. Nosotros, Rocío y Jorge, la reportera y el fotógrafo, se quedaron en el estacionamiento, esperando todavía tratar de generar algún contenido a la salida de los jugadores. Adentro, uno de los delanteros estelares del equipo, el chileno Héctor Mancilla, que en esa época estaba todavía en la selección, se retiró y el jefe de prensa le dijo a los demás, va a hacer una rehabilitación, va a hacer una terapia muscular, no pasa nada. Sin embargo, era mentira. En realidad, el jugador iba a hablar con el presidente del club para tratar de solucionar el problema de su contrato que estaba a punto de expirar y porque ya tenía ofertas de otros clubes. Para llegar a la oficina del presidente, en el estadio universitario, la Casa de los Tigres, hay que recorrer una escalera por fuera que tiene vista directa al estacionamiento, donde estaba nuestra reportera y nuestro fotógrafo. Cuando van subiendo y van platicando, Mancilla y el presidente del club, los vio nuestra reportera y le dijo al fotógrafo, ahí van, empieza a tomarles fotos. Así que el fotógrafo tomó el lente largo y empezó a disparar y empezó a sacar las imágenes. Empezaron a discutir, empezaron a levantar la voz, se veían molestos, manotearon. Había un problema ahí que nuestro reportero y nuestra fotógrafa lo pudieron ver gracias a que estaban fuera, gracias a que no les permitieron el acceso justamente al entrenamiento. Después, ya por la tarde, la reportera habló con el jugador, él explicó la situación, le dio... la reportera ya tenía una nota, la reportera tenía ya la información, el fotógrafo ya tenía imágenes exclusivas, así que preparamos una portada sensacional que nadie más tenía y que causó sorpresa al medio porque logramos obtener información a partir de que nos cerraron la puerta, a partir de que nos negaron el acceso oficial. Obviamente lo seguimos haciendo con los otros clubes, empezamos a conseguir contenido distinto ante este veto del que fuimos objeto y bueno, no pasó mucho tiempo para que la federación nos retirara el veto porque fuimos más incómodos de lo que ellos creían que nos iban a volver al momento de cerrarnos la puerta. En mi país dicen, cuando se cierra una puerta, se abre una ventana. En este caso fue así. Cuando nos cerraron directamente el acceso a la fuente oficial, empezamos a buscar la forma de poder seguir generando contenido asomándonos a través de esa ventana. Y eso es lo que hoy sucede con el periodista deportivo. Las condiciones que nos ha heredado la pandemia nos han hecho prácticamente imposible acceder a muchos de los atletas, de los deportistas, de los protagonistas de este mundo deportivo. Pero hay ventanas abiertas. Ponían el caso de las redes sociales. Es cierto, hoy el deportista y el atleta ha encontrado en las redes sociales la forma en la que se va a comunicar con nosotros. A veces deciden no hacerlo de otra forma más que a través de sus redes sociales. Y es más, a veces en la red social ni siquiera es el propio atleta. Es una agencia de marketing la que controla las palabras o la que le da voz al deportista. Sin embargo, hay una ventana abierta también en ese mundo. Hoy, gracias a las redes sociales, podemos tener acceso a este atleta, a este deportista que antes parecía lejano. Podemos empezar a buscar una entrevista a través de redes sociales, aunque no tengamos el contacto directo con el protagonista del deporte. Podemos consultar una información, podemos confirmar una nota. Es decir, hoy se abre un nuevo acceso para el periodista que tiene que darse cuenta que este tema del acceso a la información no es el fin de la profesión, es la evolución de nuestra profesión, es el desarrollo de nuevas herramientas y nuevas técnicas para poder generar este tipo de contenidos que siguen siendo valiosos para nuestro lector. Así que con esto concluyo con la idea de que para el periodista deportivo hoy es importante identificar que los accesos se nos están cerrando, pero no por eso se nos cierra el mundo. Hay que buscar estas nuevas ventanas y tratar de aprovecharlas para seguir generando contenido valioso. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Carlos. Nice conclusion. And we are, you know, what will I say now? And must go further. Shinsuke Kobayashi, he is in Japan, and we have checked this with Shinzuke earlier, so I hope everything is working with Japan. Shinzuke, welcome. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm very honored to be part of this event. Well, as you said, I'm in Tokyo, and well, there was a very strong remark from Gianni in the beginning of this session, and as a Japanese and as someone who is in Tokyo waiting everybody to arrive, I probably have to make a few comments on what Gianni said. Well, of course, I don't intend to defend the organizing committee or make any excuse of all these measures they are implementing and telling foreign journalists to do. But let me explain sort of a background. And also there is a, the background is that I think the fatal mistake is Japan is very slow in vaccination, and not many people are vaccinated yet. And well, for the last year and few months, Japan tried to prevent this pandemic by just taking all these meticulous measures of wearing masks, washing hands, and avoiding contact and so on. Instead, unlike Europe or in the US, implementing the vaccine quickly as possible, the Japan didn't take this approach. And I think the notion with the vaccine is a little bit different. Now I think in Europe and US, everybody believe in vaccination, and the society is getting back to normal. A lot of Japanese people are very skeptical with the vaccines, unfortunately. And even if you are vaccinated, people feel rather uneasy or unsafe. And well, that's the background. And of course, I think what organizing committee is trying to do is avoid all this negative reaction from the public and all the opposition to hold the Olympics. Most recent poll says 86% of population feels the Olympic will make them, feel that they are uneasy, they feel unsafe having the Olympics in Japan. 86%. And we are this country with the island, and people have a very, skepticism to what is coming from overseas. And what I think the organizing committees do is they're not targeting at you, the foreign media, but they're looking at the public. They try to make the public as quiet as possible. And that's the reason they put all those sort of strange measures, or the, maybe they look overreaction to you. But I think what the organized committee is trying to do is to just make the public feel as easy and safe as possible. That's the biggest reason behind it, I think. So my one advice to you who are coming to Tokyo is just wear masks all the time. I know it's unnecessary outdoors and for people who has vaccination, but it's just the notion that, or the impression that changes, Well, Japanese, I don't like masks, but in general, Japanese like masks. Many people wear masks even before the pandemic, and it looked actually strange, when during winter many people wear masks no matter what. So anyway, wear a mask and you feel more comfortable. People won't stare at you and so on. So anyway, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer later. And touching on this mental health thing, which is the main theme and topic of this seminar. Well, yes, it's a very delicate issue, and it's really hard to, judge or evaluate. But of course, I don't know Naomi Osaka personally, and I can't really tell exactly what is happening or what is going on. But the impression I got and the way what I'm not happy about is the way this started and way it developed. When Naomi Osaka, of course, first refused to attend press conferences at the French Open. And I think there was, at that point, some debate. People felt sympathetic, and some people had other opinion. Some people say it's part of the, games, part of the tennis world. What happened is once she brought up this her story of depression, it kind of suddenly stopped. There's no opinion anymore, and it's in a way I think it's a little bit unhealthy, and I think we need to find some balance or middle ground or whatever with this matter. And I would like to hear many opinions from my colleagues, and I'm hoping to find some answer tonight in this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shinzuke. Gianni will try to answer you a little bit about these concerns about wearing masks. Gianni?
Only a quick thing. I want to tell you that we understand completely the feeling of the Japanese, as I told you, because your hospitality usually is so wonderful, and we were impressed by the wording that they use, no? Because we are becoming a kind of devil, and this is not correct, because in some way we are paying the mistake that the government has done with the vaccine. It's not our fault. We are all vaccinated. So I think that we can find a balance in this, because we know the traditional even balance of the Japanese. I think that now they are under pressure, but they have to relax a little bit, because we are coming there to bring a message of hope, not to destroy Japan. Okay, now let's go with
Thank you, Gianni. I just want to remind you that Shinzuke is Deputy Managing Director of Olympic and Paralympic News Office from Kyodo News. So what he had to say had some strength in his words. Thank you very much, Shinzuke. Stay with us, because I'm pretty sure that there will be some questions after all of this. Now we are going to India, to Senior Editorial Consultant to Outlook Magazine, Mr. Sumitra Bose.
Okay, hello everyone, and it's a real pleasure to be part of this discussion, and very happy World Sports Journalist Day to all of you. I've been hearing a lot of things on Japan. I just wanted to reiterate that there's a very healthy respect for Japan as a country in India, because Daisuke Ikeda, the great Japanese philosopher, and his Soka Gakkai is very much followed in India. And what Daisuke Ikeda has taught is to embrace all cultures among adversities. And that is exactly what Japan is going to try and do. There's a healthy respect for Japan, but unfortunately, we've all spoken about the vaccine. We've all spoken about the mask. India is one of the countries which is kind of in the red list of Japan. And the playbook especially is very hard for the Indian athletes. And that's a big concern for Indian athletes, and maybe a part of the subcontinent. Well, that's another story. I don't want to get into the negatives of vaccination and other aspects where the playbook comes into play to ensure that the safety of the games are paramount. I would like to carry on from where Christine left. Christine told us this amazing story of the Black American swimmer who came to the media and told her story. I have penned down a few lines. I think this week has been a week of hope. This week has been a week of motivation and conviction, and shows what the athletes who are trying to go to Tokyo 2020 are aspiring for. Excellence in the Olympics will be mankind's biggest show of strength and victory against the dreaded pandemic. Amid all the misery around, we as human beings have searched for good news in some form or the other. I come from a country where the pandemic has hit us most. Almost every Indian family or every family in the subcontinent has been touched by the pandemic, deaths and whatnot. In this gloom, we have always tried to find a stroke of sunlight, a stroke of goodness. And that is what my small little speech is all about. And what can be better than 2 world records this week, and both coming from track and field. I think in Oslo yesterday, Norway's Karsten Warholm broke Kevin Young's 25-year-old 400-meter hurdles record. And just the day before, we had good news from India. And we had a Paralympian breaking a world record in javelin. He is perhaps the greatest Paralympian the world has ever seen. And if he is successful, he'll probably break his 4th world record in Japan Paralympics in August. This person's name is Devendra Jhajaria. He comes from a very obscure village in the northwestern part of India, which is very close to the deserts of India, called the Sahara Desert. And he comes from a very obscure town called Churu, C-H-U-R-U, which is famous for its extraordinary temperatures in summer. It crosses more than 50 degrees. And Devendra comes from that place. Having faced the odds in life, he lost his left hand when he was electrocuted while climbing a tree, and he was only 8 years old. That is how Devendra started his life against all the odds. And his extraordinary performances in the Olympics, he started his Olympics in Athens 2004, and he started with a gold medal there. He won his 2nd gold medal in Rio 2016. And every time he won the gold medal, he did a world record. And his aspiration is, and on Wednesday, during the trials in Delhi, he did another world record. And hence he qualified for Japan Paralympics, which will be held in August. He is the quintessential athlete that one is looking for. He is the man who gives every Indian athlete, I guess every athlete in the world, hope and aspiration to do well. He is solid in mind, he is solid in body. And when we asked him that what has driven you to break world records with such ease, he says the last 2 years of the pandemic has been extremely hard on him and his family. But despite all the problems, he managed to keep his focus on the COVID protocols. He followed them to a T. At no point in time lost focus, always maintained the training regimen that his coach and his physical trainer gave him, and never lost hope. His goal was Tokyo. Yes, it did not happen last year, but he said, I will not lose. I will ensure that my next Olympics, I break another world record. I mean, this is the story of Devendra. I think this is the story of many athletes whom we still don't know and who are all destined to perhaps excel at Tokyo. I think we are all looking forward to many Devendras in the Tokyo Games and the Paralympics. He yearns to make history in Tokyo with the 4th world record. And there are many such Indian athletes, and there are so many athletes across the world who will all want to do something what Devendra has done. Well, that is my first portion. I think that we should all be very positive in our mind. Okay, Japan has a very strong playbook, but that is all part of the game. I think Japan wants to make a flawless game, and at the end of the day, even no matter how much you criticize Japan, I think they will come out with flying colors. That is the first portion of the topic which we are discussing today. The second portion is about whether our sources are in peril. I could not follow people speaking in Spanish or other language because so far nobody has spoken about this, but I will take this opportunity to say a few things. Sports reporting has changed a lot ever since the billions flowed in from the corporates from 2010 onwards. The traditional concept of breaking stories too has changed over time. Increasingly, sports persons or team staff, once your greatest source of information, have become extremely cautious and cagey. The stakes are too high for them because the top ones are bound by watertight contracts that forbid freewheeling media interactions. At press conferences, we are more or less controlled by external factors. The sources have dried up. The definition of sources have changed. What are these now? What are the new sources that we have to deal with? When I say control means we are told what to write. The freedom of expression has gone. At least from an Indian point of view, when the media organizations are under so much stress, the concept of true journalism is slowly losing its foothold. And we are being told what to write. Hence, you will see a lot of stories which are controlled by broadcasters and sponsors. And we are told not to break stories or write hard stories. It is a real fact. And the fact that
can you have a conclusion, please?
Yes. So I'm saying that if we have to survive in this world, we really need to balance. And here is the AIPS's role to tell us how to balance between our livelihoods and what the employers tell us to do. Thank you.
Very much. This was Sumitra Bose from India. Now we are continuing our traveling around the world. And now we are going to Australia to senior reporter of ABC News, very well known, Tracy Holmes. Tracy, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody, again. And Gianni, once again, thanks for facilitating this discussion. There's been so many great points made already, and it's so difficult, isn't it? Because when I think about being a journalist, I think about I was also reporting in the Jurassic era that Gianni was talking about some time ago. We managed to report when there were no mobile telephones. We managed to report when there was no internet, there was no Google, and you try and think about doing our job now with those sorts of constraints, it would seem almost impossible. But I think it comes back to something that Carlos said earlier, and that is things change, things evolve. And I think sometimes we spend so much time looking at the story that we miss so many other parts of a much bigger story. There's always so many other elements. There are always so many other points of view. There are always so many different ways of seeing it. And I think part of the danger in the situation we've come to now is so much has been handed over to the corporate world, as Sumitra was saying, and it's become a little bit sterilized. And we gladly take what we're given rather than fighting for something else or looking elsewhere or going under the covers or going outside instead of being in the room. And this comes back to the Naomi Osaka story. I think when Naomi said she didn't want to talk to the media anymore, I think she has every right to be able to do that. And I know that that's not what everybody thinks. I think a lot of people have made their points of view that, you know, they should speak to the media. I just find it, if we are forcing people to follow a particular track, that doesn't look good for us. We don't like being forced and told how we should do our job. And yet here we are saying that individuals, even if they feel terribly uncomfortable, they should be speaking with us. And that troubles me somewhat. And I thought with the Naomi Osaka story, her saying nothing actually told us a great deal. And I don't fear that the rest of the sporting world will try to use as an excuse that they also have mental health issues in order not to speak to us, because I think they do see the value in what we do. I also see the value in what Naomi Osaka does on a court. I see the value in what she did at the US Open, coming out each day for her match with a different mask on with the name of somebody who had been killed at the hands of the police as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think by not talking, she actually says a whole lot. And I think that is a great part of the story. And these are the stories we need to look to. I was going to tell you a story of my own today when I started, but it's kind of everybody else has been so inspiring that I'm just bouncing off that. But I had a chat today, earlier this week, with one of Australia's Olympians who competed at the first Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo in 1964. His name is Lindsay Gaze. He was a basketball player. He went on to play at 3 Olympics. He then coached the men's national team at a further 4 Olympic Games. And I was asking him about his memories of Tokyo and what he thinks Tokyo is going to look like in a few weeks' time. And his message was that, when Tokyo held the Games in 1964, it was only 20 years after World War II. And Japan had been flattened. 30% of the rural area was smashed. 40% of the population no longer had homes to live in. And just 19 years later, they had invited the world to celebrate the Olympic Games. And he said the people were so hospitable, something that Gianni was talking about as well. This time it's different. It's not a world war as we recognise, but it's a pandemic that a lot of people are very afraid of. I live in a country where we've been very lucky, very few cases, but people are very afraid. And people behave differently when they're afraid. Some are not, some really are. And the Japanese people clearly are afraid. And so even though there are these restraints that are being put on us and it's going to be very difficult to do our job, and I understand that together we can all come as the ape's voice behind Gianni to ask, that perhaps there is some leeway and some more loosening of the rules and the regulations so we can do our job. But on the other hand, I also know that even in what sounds like is going to be a very sterile and very austere, and a word that Lindsay Gaze used today was spooky kind of Olympics, I think that also is a story. And I think these are the stories we have to tell. They are the stories as they happen, not as we would like them to happen. And sometimes that's not easy. But I'm so confident that as observers, this is what we are. We are storytellers and observers. And I think what we observe, we will tell, and we will share that with the world. And that is all we can do because we're journalists. Thank you.
And now we are going to Morocco, to Editor-in-Chief of Al Muntakab, Mr. Badreddine Idrissi Lazini. Badreddine, welcome.
Bonsoir à tout le monde, vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Bonsoir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bonsoir à tous mes confrères à travers les 4 coins du monde. Je suis très ravi d'être parmi vous dans cette journée qui mémore notre fête universelle, la fête des journalistes sportifs. الزميل العزيز جياني ميرلو رئيس الاتحاد الدولي للصحافة الرياضية، زملائي الصحفيين الرياضيين أينما تواجدتم، يفرض تشريف الاتحاد الدولي للصحافة الرياضية لشخصي المتواضع للسنة الثانية تواليا بأن أكون ضمن هذه الكوكبة من قادة الصحافة الرياضية في القارة الخمس أن أقدم لزميلي وصديقي ورئيسنا جاني ميرلو خالص امتناني وسعادتي بأن أسلم بهذه المداخلة المتواضعة في هذه الندوة التي يقيمها اتحادنا الدولي احتفاء بيوم 2 يوليوز اليوم العالمي للصحافة الرياضية، اليوم الذي نأتي فيه جميعا إلى هذه المنصة لنجدد انتماءنا القوي لهذه المهنة التي عشقناها وتعلقنا بها ومحلت كل متاعبها الجميلة دون أن نؤدي رسالتنا على الوجه الأكمل، ولنوحد الصوت من أجل صيانة الموروث وحماية مهنة الصحافة الرياضية من كل الأخطار المحدقة بها، وفي مقدمتها حقنا الوصول للمعلومة. مثل هذا اليوم من السنة الماضية حضرنا جميعا بدعوة من الاتحاد الدولي للصحافة الرياضية إلى هذه المنصة الافتراضية لنبرز التحديات الكبيرة التي واجهتها مهنتنا بسبب جائحة كوفيد-19، وقد توافقنا على اختلاف بيئاتنا الإعلامية وحجم تضررنا من الجائحة على أن خيارنا الوحيد للصمود وجه هذه الجائحة هو أن نطور ونحين ونحدد وسائلنا الإعلامية بالشكل الذي يرضي الجمهور الواسع ويتناسب مع ذوقه المتنامي. ليس هذا فقط، ولكن أيضا أن نحصن إعلامنا الرياضي ونحميه من المخاطر التي تتهدده مع الانتشار السريع والمتنامي لوسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، ومع ظهور سلوكيات غريبة وشاذة في المشهد الرياضي العالمي، ومنها طبعا ما هو جوهر ومحور ندوتنا هذه. إن القول بأن الإعلام والرياضة شريكان استراتيجيان وجناحان لطائر واحد، شريكان في صناعة النجاح، وشريكان في الدفاع عن القيم النبيلة للرياضة، وشريكان في جعل الرياضة محركا اجتماعيا ورافعة للتنمية، يفرض أن تكفل للإعلام الرياضي حقه الطبيعي الوصول إلى المصادر ومنها إلى المعلومة، حق تكفله الدساتير العالمية وهو قاعدة أي إعلام نزيه وبناء. فمتى استحال الوصول إلى المصادر، ومتى صدر الحق في الوصول إلى المعلومة، متى سقط العماد الأساسي في عمل الصحفي، ومتى انتشرت الإشاعة، ومتى فقد الإعلام حريته واستقلاليته في نقل الأخبار والتعليق عليها. وإذا كانت المتاريس المنصوبة اليوم أمام الصحفيين للحيلولة دون وصولهم للمصادر وللمعلومة تختلف من قارة لأخرى ومن بلد لآخر، إلا أنها تدل على خطورة الوضع الذي يزداد سوءا في قارتنا الإفريقية. لا يقف الأمر عند إغلاق المنافذ للحصول على الخبر وتعطيل الوصول للمصادر، بل يتعداه إلى التنكيل بالصحفيين الرياضيين والتضييق عليهم وترهيبهم واستفزازهم. لطالما لدينا كإعلام رياضي الجمعيات والاتحادات الرياضية للانفتاح على الصحافة وتجويد التواصل مع الرأي العام الرياضي بدلا من الانغلاق والتعتيم، وتفاءلنا خيرا مع ما وفرته الاستحداثات التكنولوجية من وسائل جديدة وعملية وميسرة للتواصل الاجتماعي بخروج الأندية والرياضيين من عزلتهم، لأنهم للأسف ساءوا استعمال هذه الآلية وخلقوا صحافة على مقاسهم يروجون من خلالها ما تشتهيه سياساتهم الرياضية لا ما يحتاجه الرأي العام ويجده في التحليلات المعمقة والمهنية للصحفيين الرياضيين. إن أساطير الرياضة في المغرب وهم يعتبرون أن عالميتهم وبطولاتهم ونجاحاتهم الرياضية كان للإعلام دور فيها هو إقرار على إيجابية العلاقة التي ربطت هؤلاء الأساطير بالصحافة الرياضية، علاقة قائمة على الصدقية والاحترام المتبادل، ودالة على أن هناك جسرا مفتوحا بين الرياضيين والصحفيين منه يعبر النقد الملتزم والنزيه والمصداقي البطل بكل شفافية على عالمه الخارجي. هذه العلاقة هي ما يجب علينا كإعلاميين أن نحرص على وجودها وديمومتها، وهي ما يجب على الاتحادات الرياضية أن تبقيها قوية ومتينة ونظيفة من كل الخلفيات والحسابات وحتى الحساسيات المريضة. فلو ساءت هذه العلاقة لتقوض الصرح ولسقطت في الماء شراكتنا كإعلام مع الرياضة، ومع حرصنا جميعا على مواجهة كل هذه المخاطر التي تحدق بعلاقتنا المباشرة مع الأبطال الرياضيين ومع المصادر بشكل عام، يكون لزاما أن ننتبه إلى ما يجتاح المشهد الإعلامي الرياضي من رياح سيئة في صورة سلوكيات مريضة تهدد المهنية والمصداقية والنزاهة، وتشجع الرياضيين والاتحادات على مزيد من الانغلاق، وأيضا على إحداث ما أسميه بفقاعات إعلامية معزولة. إن الأخذ بأي من الأسباب التي يتم الترويج لها كذريعة لتبرير هذه الموانع المنصوبة أمام الصحفيين الرياضيين للوصول إلى المعلومة، حتى تلك التي يقول أن لها طبيعة نفسية، سيفتح الباب لا محالة أمام ما لا عد له ولا حصر له من الذرائع الواهية، والتي غايتها النيل من حرية واستقلالية، بل ومن وظيفة الإعلام تطوير المنتج الرياضي والدفاع عن القيم النبيلة التي تصدرها الرياضة. لذا أخلص أننا بالفعل أمام تحدي ينضاف لكل التحديات التي تواجهها الصحافة الرياضية. ختاما، إنني أضم صوتي لصوت الزميل جياني ميرلو لأؤكد بأن الألعاب الأولمبية ما حصلت على كونيتها إلا بفضل الإعلام، ووجود الصحافة في صلب هذه الإعلام لمشاركتها النجاح والتميز هو حق مشروع. ودورة طوكيو التي تنظم في سياقة زمنية صعبة وظروف معقدة لن تكتب تاريخها من دون صحافة. شكرا لكم على حسن الإصغاء. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, Badreddine. It was interesting as always. Thank you very much. We were in Morocco, and now we are staying at Africa soil, but we are going to Ghana. Editor-in-Chief of Africa Sports, Mr. Kwabena Yeboah.
President of the IPS and fellow panel, distinguished colleagues, as we celebrate the International Day of Sports Journals, I bring you special greetings from Africa. Well, for a specific purpose, as we celebrate the World Sports Journalists Day, and in view of recent concerns about the mental health of our elite sportsmen and sportswomen and how their state impacts our profession as journalists, we can safely narrow the issue to the athlete's condition in relation to their psychological and emotional well-being. It's primarily could be anything from anxiety disorder, phobia, depression, and mood disorders. Traditionally, journalists and sportsmen have never had the greatest relationships. Our jobs as journalists requires us to ask questions that people don't always ask. And in line of that duty, it is easy for us to come across as insensitive and intrusive. Yet these questions, whether in post-match interviews, in investigating issues, in speaking to the player who has suffered long-term injuries, matter. When Christian Eriksen collapsed at the start of the Euros, I would have imagined the difficulties of journalists in covering this, in trying to unravel the mood in the Denmark camp, in trying to make a determination about what to publish and what not to publish. Even if a journalist had impeccable sources within the team or in the hospital where the player stayed. With emotions so raw, this could have required special skills in dealing with the sources. What form of journalism we find ourselves in? Dealing with sources is what makes us. The big stories really happens when we are physically present. We rely on sources in a significant part of our work. We rely on them for color, for context, even when we have watched a game or seen a race live. And in dealing with sources, mutual trust is fundamental. If our primary sources, in this case, sportsmen, are anxious, unhappy, moody, unwilling to speak, and depressed, answering questions will be the last priority for them. In the many years of covering Ghana and Ghanaian teams, I learned one thing: a loss on a trip with the Black Stars, the national team of Ghana, and Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Hope, Ghana's two most prominent football teams, meant very little stories, little context, and little buzz. Our sources simply don't open up as much as if the mood was not right. Two examples stick out for me. When Kumasi Asante Kotoko led the last Africa Cup Winners' Cup against WAC of Morocco, there was as much tears in the stands as there was on the pitch. The players drifted away without a word. The coach was broken. Our coverage, but the raw emotions and without much input from the players. Ghana versus Uruguay at the 2010 World Cup is another example. A few players boldly spoke after the loss, but it wasn't until the morning after we got context, the deeper stories, and the reflect in many ways. Our work as journalists, how we report certain news stories, and what we ask from players and athletes affect their mental health in ways we do not know. What Naomi Osaka's rejection to speak to the press at the French Open has done is that it has emboldened a sect of athletes who have mental health issues high on their block to come out and advocate for better systems. Why must a player speak to reporters at all costs, regardless of how they feel? It is a question we may need to reflect on as journalists ourselves. A lot of education will be needed by journalists if this worrying trend has to get better. We have to know what to put out and when to hold our cards to our chest, because it could affect the mental health of the athletes. The effect is that players will withdraw publicly. So access to them will be very, very difficult. Player interviews will be scarce. A good example is that Samojan penalty miss of the 2010 World Cup. It has made him a bit more reclusive in the past few years. Shying away from interviews, knowing the penalty miss would definitely be topical on the list. Line of questioning is the most important. There are many instances when players have agreed to interviews on certain basis that stringent rules on what they want to answer and what they will not want to deal with. Black Stars players, that's the Ghana national team, have long commented on how they feel treated when they come down from their foreign clubs to play for the Black Stars. The insults, name calling, and others affect them in ways, and in turn makes the journalists' work difficult. Also, mental health issues have become rifer. People are beginning to understand that certain utterances damage the sportsmen. What this does is that it gives the sportsmen an opportunity to run the discourse however they want it. They can also take legal action on journalists who tend to misconstrue their words or write something in a way that is quite far from what they actually said. So the key actors become increasingly wary of opening up as they deal with their own difficulties. We as journalists will lose a big part of our story. Our job is to find a balance between asking the right and difficult questions and being able to empathize with them. Until we find this balance, I'm afraid the journey ahead could be perilous. Thank you very much. I salute all of you on this very special day of the International Day of Sports Journalists. Special greetings from Africa, Gianni. Thank you for this opportunity and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Kwabena. It was interesting. And now I know that you are asking, is Amalvi fixed his connection with us? Vincent, can we hear you now?
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes.
It's more, sorry about that. Hi, everybody. So by the end, so I switched my computer. Now it's better. Okay, so that's just maybe to be very, very pragmatic. I want to come back about my experience. I arrived in Tokyo for 3 weeks now. And I spent 2 weeks in a kind of not prison, but in quarantine. So it was a pretty interesting experience. A lot of work from this place, but after, I mean, my concern actually compared to all of you who was speaking before, I mean, is maybe the point is this gap of misunderstanding which is here, you know. It's a kind of an official position coming from very top of the country, and where the journalists are just a spectator between the organization, you know. Is a little bit confusing, and is no any communication, I think, or exchange, you know. And I am completely agree with Tracy when she said, I mean, we have to keep positive, because for a journalist, the situation is very, very interesting. We are facing a situation which is unique. This Olympic will be unique. And so that's the challenge for a journalist is very high, and I think very interesting. That's a positive thing. But on the other hand, in terms of organization, is extremely difficult because I think is a big is a gap of understanding between everybody. You know. After I think it's very, very difficult to organize in these circumstances Olympics. So we know that, we understand that, but I think maybe we have to exchange more between, the organization committee and the journalist and the IOC try the best way to communicate and to at the end to succeed on these Olympics. It's actually, I mean, we're in a situation where we don't understand exactly where we have to go. You know, technically, to summarize, we have to write this famous activity plan. You know, but it's extremely difficult to understand exactly what we have to write, what we have to those forms are for us very difficult to understand where we are going, and so the difficulties really is at the communication level.
Okay, thank you very much, Vincent. It was Vincent Amalvi, Global Head of Sports of AFP. And now after Africa, Asia, after Oceania, Japan, all those countries, now we are going back to Europe. With us is also Deputy Editor-in-Chief, La Gazzetta dello Sport, Mr. Pier Bergonzi. Pier, welcome.
Hello to everybody. Thank you, Yura. Thank you to my president, our president, and my colleague and my good friend, Gianni Merlo. First of all, mental disorder is a huge and serious problem. Every one of us know that. It's a sign of the time. But it could be also become a real and increasing problem for us, the journalist community. I would like to make a little flashback about my career, my personal situation. Tour de France 1998, Galibier stage, with the finish line on Les Deux Alpes. Marco Pantani realized an historical feat. He won alone with more than 8 minutes on the Jan Ullrich, and he took the yellow jersey. It was maybe the best day, the best race in all his career. During the press conference in the van next to the finish line, Gianni Mura, one of the best Italian journalists ever, stared at his face for a long time, listening to his sentences, and finally asked an easy but profound, deep question. Marco, why did you go so fast on the mountain? Pantani took a long time to respond. He looked the sky and finally said, I go so fast in the mountain to shorten my agony. This historical response has become a sort of manifesto of Pantani Pensiero, Pantani Thought. And he was lucky for us to be there in the right place, in the right moment, in front of him. This historical answer has become a sort of manifesto, and when we speak about Pantani, we speak about this question. I go so fast in the mountain to shorten my agony. Second scenario. If Pantani hadn't talked to us after the legendary Galibier, because a sort of mental illness, because a mental health, we would like to contact his press office with the real risk to receive some approval plastic answer. Something like, I don't know why I go so fast in the mountain. I'm in great shape. I can really climb better than ever. Technique, automatic answer. No, Pantani said another thing. He said in front of us, I go so fast on the mountain to shorten my agony. The problem we will have in mental health becomes a refuge. If the mental health becomes a shelter, becomes a refuge, it's obvious. The champions, the team, all the press office will have to check everything. They want to speak just with the TV, with the web, with social network. They want to have the question before the interview. They want to read the story before the publication. The space for our work and our role are becoming less important every day, but is a colossal mistake. The best interview arises from direct confrontation. Those that make athletes become real character. Will beyond the pre-packaging world of social media. And we will see what will happen in Tokyo. We would not want the consequence of the lockdown, the fear of the pandemic, to increase the distance between us and the protagonists we talk about in our media. And we do not want anyone to speculate on the problems of mental health. For different purposes, it will be deontologic horror and more wood on the fire on the distrust of our profession. Men and women suffering from mental disorder will always have always will have our respect. We hope to receive just as much respect. So what you can still look into, we want to still look in the eyes of the champions like Pantani, who tell us some surprising truth. In this meeting, there is the beauty of our profession. We are journalists, not terminal of a pre-establishment mechanism. Thank you, all of you. It's always interesting to listen to some colleagues all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are now at the end of our panelists. So in this moment, it is open for all of you if you want to ask any question or want to add something to the situation that you heard from one of our panelists or from several of them. So it is now your turn to raise a hand and try to be with us, because we do think that this is important thing for sport journalism, and it is important for you to participate. If you want to say anything, something to add, of course, you are always welcome. Till now, we don't have any hand. Oh, yes, Wojciech Nowakorski from Poland. He raised a hand. Just a second, that we find you in our list. Wojciech is with us. Wojciech.
Yes, hello everybody. Yes, I would like to say something about the mental health and how it is developing the matter of mental health in the world of sport, I think. The fact is that this year's Polish National Olympic Committee award for the best female coach of the year came for the first time to the psychologic coach, Daria Abramowicz, who is taking care of Iga Świątek, our tennis player. And I think that is what shows that the mental health and the mental preparation for the sports event is something that is becoming just treated as much as importantly as the usual training we are used to see. So I think that is quite an important step on the one hand to achieve the better results for the athletes, but also for people, for the fans, to notice the fact that besides the usual training we see, like the football game or the tennis shooting training, there is also the mental health training as well, as important as the physical training.
Thank you, Wojciech. Nice talks about. Now we have Ben Emanuel Kum. He's with us. Also wants to say something. Yes.
Which country?
From which country you are? Open the microphone, please, and tell us from which country you are. No, we can't hear Ben. Anyway, the same problem says with Amalvi, I'm afraid. There are two more participants. And let's see, yes. Renayo, yes.
Good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to be here. I have just one question. There have been plenty of talks about mental health and how to balance athletes' mental health from the point of the journalists. And I have a very important question. The fact that an athlete or footballer, whichever they are questioned about a certain incident that happened in the game, in a match, or whatever. Let's take this as an example. France against Switzerland. Kylian Mbappe missed a very important penalty that should have taken France to the quarterfinals of the Euro 2020. But he missed that. And what journalists saw from that angle was Kylian Mbappe missing a penalty that should have taken France to the next stage. So how should a journalist ask a question that wouldn't disturb or in what terms affecting the mental health of Kylian Mbappe from that angle? Because that's the most important talking point of the game from the France angle. Then you go to the Switzerland angle. The talking point should be, of course, they played really well against France, took them to extra time and straight to penalties, and eventually won it, got to the next stage, the quarterfinals. So the question is, how do you now balance such situation so as not to affect the mental health of Kylian Mbappe in this situation? Also bringing it back to Naomi Osaka. You're not expecting me as a journalist to watch a game or a match where Osaka participated in. She played against a player ranked 105 in the world, lost to her in 2 sets. And my job as a journalist is to ask her what happened in the game. Why couldn't she find her reading? What exactly went wrong for her against the 105 ranked tennis player? So how now do we balance such situation from the angle of a journalist so as not to affect the mental health of these players? Thank you.
Thank you. To whom are you putting your question?
Anybody can answer, I don't know.
Anybody, okay. Anybody else who wants to ask question or say something? No, we don't have any others.
So, Rick, one moment. First of all, to answer to Ernaio, I think that I want to ask something to our colleague, to our colleague Takeuchi from Japan. I've seen him before. He's still there, Takeuchi.
Can you hear me?
Takeuchi, so what do you think about what we have spoken about Tokyo? You are one of the Japanese journalists that has more Olympic on your career, no? The position that we have taken also with the organizer, because I think that we can find still a solution to some problems. What is your opinion?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't read through the part of the regulation, the playbook press version 3 for the foreigners. I have read our part of the residents of Japan, but having slightly, maybe I overlooked, but maybe the organizer, the Tokyo 2020, is too cautious to prevent the infection, this COVID issue, and they made the regulation a little bit too strict and too unfriendly to the coming, reporter from abroad. I think I agree with Kristen Brennan. If we find some part of the regulation is too strict, too inconvenient to our activity, then we bring, the issue to them and to talk and try to convince they should be flexible to listen to our voices. I now remember one part of the regulation, the international press cannot go to the city and to ask the question to whatever, to the Japanese citizens. I think in the downtown or somewhere. I think it's a little bit against the freedom of press. What you guys I think what is your aim to come here to cover the Olympic Games and to write a stories? It's the very diversity of the stories you are in your mind, and sometimes you have to raise a question to the citizens of Tokyo and citizens of Japan to make your story as you wish to have. And I think yes, the regulation is a little bit some part of out of tune, as Gianni pointed out, and it's maybe the burden of they are carrying is too heavy, and then they are too cautious, and firstly they made the rule very, very, very strict, and Vincent is already here, and Vincent may raise the question firsthand here in Tokyo to the organizing committee. It's too inconvenient for us, and something like that.
Thank you very much, Takeuchi. And no, the most important thing is that the people of Japan is not to see us as an enemy bringing the coronavirus. No, we are coming there to work together. And usually, what happens when there are some restriction or the offer that the organizer can do is less than before, usually they make a cut in the cost. But instead to do this, the organizer are improving the cost. So there is something wrong also on the commercial part. So I think that we can open a discussion with them, and we are coming there to solve the problem, not to create problems. This must be clear. Let's go now with the other question.
Thank you. Hernan Sartori is with us. Hernan, from which country you are, and what is your question or your opinion about the things that we do have here as our topic team? Hernan?
I will speak in Spanish.
No problem.
I can speak in English, but I prefer my native tongue. No puedo estar más, estoy absolutamente de acuerdo con lo que ha dicho el señor Merlo al principio de esta exposición con respecto a no solamente a las restricciones que ha dado el comité organizador, sino a la desigualdad que esto genera para el periodismo de diferentes países. Así como los atletas de diferentes países han tenido distinta preparación y entrenamiento, en Estados Unidos y en Europa es diferente a lo que ha pasado, por ejemplo, aquí en Sudamérica. Con el periodismo ha pasado lo mismo. Y como el señor Merlo ha dicho, aquí en Argentina, la mayoría de los periodistas que tenían acreditación para ir a Tokio 2020 no irán porque son freelancers o porque manejan un presupuesto muy, muy escaso. Y entonces, habitualmente, de la población de periodistas que cubren los Juegos Olímpicos, irá solamente un medio nacional y 2 o 3 personas más. Yo he ido a 3 Juegos Olímpicos, Beijing 2008, Londres 2012, Río 2016, y en el momento en que Lucía Montanarella, aquí, en enero, en este Zoom excelentemente organizado por la AIPS, dijo, por favor lean el playbook. Si no están de acuerdo con las restricciones que va a haber, no vengan. Desde ese momento yo supe que el Comité Olímpico Internacional no tiene demasiadas ganas de que la prensa cubra estos Juegos Olímpicos y que quiere que estemos lejos de ir a Japón. Con las limitaciones financieras que hay en muchos países, como Argentina, fue imposible para el 90% de los periodistas argentinos ir a los Juegos Olímpicos. Yo tampoco iré, el diario donde trabajo tampoco irá, y será una pena. ¿Por qué? Porque no solamente está lo económico, sino que además las restricciones nos harán imposible hacer las notas y los artículos que siempre hacemos. Lo último, yo hablé con mi jefe y le dije, si vos ves las 50 mejores notas que publicamos en los últimos 3 Juegos Olímpicos, en el diario y en la web, ninguna de estas notas se van a poder hacer en Tokio, porque no vamos a poder estar cerca de los atletas, no vamos a poder juntar a los atletas.
Can you give us some conclusion?
Así que le agradezco al señor Merlo por difundir la desigualdad que estos países como el mío tienen con respecto al resto y por eso muchos no van a poder ir a los Juegos Olímpicos. Muchas gracias.
Hernan, thank you very much. Would you like to comment that, Johnny, or later?
No, I think that I can agree with the situation, but if the translation was not wrong, I can tell you that Lucia Manarella is there to help us. She's working very hard, and she always tries to find the best condition for us. All the decision for now is coming from the Japanese government. And this is the problem, because it is a political issue for now. And I hope that in the next days, when Japan will have more vaccinated, from here to the Olympics, they will vaccinate millions of people, not only a few thousand, but millions of people. Maybe that the mind will change a little bit, as it's changing in our country here in Europe. Because now that the 50% of us at least has received a vaccine, at least the first shot, now the life is quite normal. Yes, it's better to wear the mask. I agree with Takeuchi and with Shizuke. It's normal. We will wear the mask. The problem is to find out a solution for all the other things, that because the big danger in this moment is that this kind of campaign that is putting we foreigner going there as infectors. So people will be afraid of us, and this can perhaps sometimes cause some problems. So we have to relax the situation altogether, because really Japan has a big tradition of hospitality, and I hope that we'll come back again, because it's a fantastic place.
Aluzin, I'm sorry, Amar, we can't hear you and can't wait you to fix it.
Yes.
Aluzin.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you very much, AIPS. Thank you very much, AIPS, for this great session. You know, a lot have been learned, especially about the Olympics. Like we discussed during our e-college, the Olympics game is the biggest game, but you know, the challenges seems immense, you know. But the COVID have added some extra challenge. Like us in Sierra Leone, today is a very tragic moment, because as I speak, it is compulsory now to have a COVID vaccine, and you know, and we are also will not be observing Juma prayer today, because there is a 1 month ban on religious on congregational worship, so there will be no congregational worship across Sierra Leone. But thanks to the Sport Writers Association of Sierra Leone, SWASAL, you know, because our executive have organized today an e-conference wherein we discuss mental health and the future of athletes. So I want to say congrats to the Sport Writers Association, and you know, because they are creating the platform for us young reporters to also follow the trend. And this discourse today is again very, very more important. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AIPS.
Thank you. And now we are going to Jamil Siraj, if I pronounce it good. Jamil?
Yes, brother, thank you very much. I'm Jamil Siraj from Canberra, the Australian Capital Territory. And I congratulate to Gianni Morlo to organize such a good event. And on this occasion, World Sports Journalist Day, I salute to those who lost their lives during that pandemic, and I hope that the coming Olympic will save and save all our athletes as well. Thank you very much, all the participants. As the Tracy mentioned, here is lockdown, and but we are safe, and hopefully around the world, all journalists are safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamil, also for your thanking us. And now, yes,
Also Rick Lamoral that is asking.
Rick Lamoral, our good friend from Belgium. Rick is here. Is he here?
Yeah, yes, I've seen him rising the end, the normal end, not the situation.
Okay, if
He's
Rick
there,
is
he's
with
there.
us.
There is. Yeah. Rick, open the microphone.
Yes, I try. Yes, okay. I will be
Welcome.
very short because time is running out. I just want to say that I share, that I support the concerns like Gianni Mello expressed them. If we accept reducing the working facilities, the privacy, the action ratios, and the comfort, we have the big risk that the next organizers will use that as a standard to reduce the whole situation for the media. I think that's a big part, a big motivation to come to a good agreement with Tokyo. That's what I wanted to say, Jan.
Rick, short and very, very good. Thank you very much for that. Now we are at the end of our e-conference. I would like to ask all our panelists to take the final words. What did they learn here, and what did they find out? Is it good, and how is our future? So I will try to restart it again. I know that Cristina is not longer with us, but Juan Ignacio, your last word about the future of AIPS. Juan is not here also. Vincent, your name is always here. Vincent.
Yeah, I'm back. I mean, good luck to everybody which is coming. We need to be all together, but I'm completely agree with what you was talking about. About the it's impossible to write this kind of letter like today we got from the organization. I mean, is a basic and fundamental problem. So I hope it will be solved as soon as possible, because when, as you said, you are reading a letter, we said that it's impossible to interview somebody in the street. We are on another world. So I am pretty sure a wise man like our Japanese friend, who have a lot of influence, will wait on this kind of big mistake and will try to arrange the situation or to go on a better way. Okay, thanks a lot.
Now we are going to Carlos, to Mexico. Carlos, are you still with us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all to this nice and valuable talk. Quiero cerrar con la idea de, es cierto, se nos están cerrando muchas puertas, es complicado y vamos a tener un control muy duro en Juegos Olímpicos, pero como periodistas, con este instinto que desarrollamos en esta profesión, busquemos estas formas de acceso de las que han aparecido en los últimos años, como redes sociales, WhatsApp, etcétera, para seguir generando contenido de valor para nuestra audiencia, para nuestros lectores. No podemos dejar que nuestra profesión se quede en Twitter con una opinión de alguien que se le ocurrió algo cuando estaba viendo la televisión y los Juegos Olímpicos. Nosotros como periodistas necesitamos seguir contando historias, descubriendo notas, generando contenido de valor, aunque nos estén cerrando la puerta para el acceso directo a la fuente. Así que se quede este Día Internacional del Periodista, esta charla de la AIPS, como una alerta para que nuestra labor como profesionales tiene que ser buscar estas nuevas ventanas de acceso y seguir generando contenido de valor. Muchas gracias a todos y feliz día del periodista deportivo.
Thank you, Carlos. Now we are going back to Japan. Shinsuke, if he's still with us, because it's late in Japan, maybe he's sleeping. No, he's not sleeping.
He's at the work. He's at the work. He's in the office.
Yes. Shinsuke, final words from you.
Yeah, well, I had a hard time unmuting myself. Well, what can I say? I really wish everybody's experience here in Tokyo wouldn't be that bad. It's hard to see my friends suffer. I, hear that Ban-san had a very hard time, for the hard quarantine and soft quarantine altogether, 14 days. But at the same time, I know some of the people working in the organizing committee, and they're working hard. They're exhausted, but they're still trying to do their best. So I want everybody to be patient. I don't want the Olympic Games in my home country will be a disaster. So I just wish things go smooth as possible, and hope to see everybody smiling at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shinzo. Okay, and now we are going back to India. Sumitra, your final word, question, or something you have to say? If Sumitra is still with us, I can't see it. No, yes? Okay, Sumitra, yes, he's still.
First of all, it was a very stimulating discussion. I wish we had more time, but I'm very sure Japan will put up a very good show.
It's 23 hours.
And I think it will be the ultimate test of mind and body for athletes, and may the best athlete win. That is the first portion. And the second portion is, as professional journalists, we are being attacked by a lot of external forces. I would request AIPS to uphold the tradition of ethical journalism and show their support across the world.
Thank you, Sumitra. Thank you for your kind words. Tracy, it's your turn. But be short, please.
I can't unmute.
Tracy Holmes is with us.
Yeah. Sorry, I could not unmute. I know you asked me to be short, so I'll be very quick. It's really fantastic to engage with the whole world on these APES conferences, so thank you again very much. I'm very sorry for any journalist who planned to be in Tokyo and can't be, but from my sake, I'm very much looking forward to going to Tokyo. I think it's going to be difficult, but it's going to be a Games that is worth reporting for a whole lot of reasons. So I look forward to seeing anyone that will be there.
Hope to see you not in jail, maybe some other place. And now Badedrin, he is not with us. Fabena is not with us. Pierre Bergonzi, your final word, Pierre. No, he is not with us also. So Tracy, you have the final words before President, of course.
Sure.
Mr. President.
So now I think that we are very happy for what it happened. I'm sorry for the question that we cannot answer, we couldn't answer because it's a restricted time. We have only 2 hours for simultaneous translation, but I think that was a great day because I began also this morning to answer to some questions around the world. Next year we will study something perhaps new, and I am very happy because everybody of you is looking for a better future for our profession. And if we work together, if we have also we discuss together many times, we will find a solution every time. And so thank you very much, and see you for perhaps from Tokyo, because in Tokyo with Chibu that is here in our office, we will try to do our best. And perhaps we will organize some meeting from there on Zoom, a kind of Radio Tokyo or something, or IPS in Tokyo. So if somebody of you will have some special question, we'll be there to answer to your question. So see you from Tokyo, and thank you very much for your passion today.
Thank you, Mr. Merlo. And of course, mail us or WhatsApp us or phone us, whatever you want. All the questions we will try to answer. Be with us, be with AIPS, be with AIPS Awards, because it is open. It is a very, very good award. And of course, keep in touch.
No, sorry, one moment. We have to ask, and I ask to you to be all together now on video for the last applause for our team that has worked today and has made this possible. From Barbara that is there with Andrea. You can show yourself with Andrea. And after we have Simone there in the corner. on the other room there is Maria Pia with Georgia, and after there is Stefania. So is our and Chibu. Where is Chibu? Chibu, you have to appear somewhere. And I think that it was our team. We are not so many, but we try to do our best. And I thank you also our Secretary General Jura that came here to put order in our what we call in Italian casino. That is a nice word. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Ciao
Bye-bye.
to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Ciao to everybody.
Bye.